Hi, I'm Cooper Hefner. You're probably wondering why there's a tiger in the corner. You're probably also wondering what you're doing here. This is the Playboy Mansion, and I'm going to show you around my home. This is where I grew up, and I'm excited for you to see a part of the house that no one has ever seen before. This is the Great Hall. It's the first place that guests walk into when they first arrive at the mansion, and it is full of really cool knickknacks, and I'm excited to show you guys. We have some very cool art hanging in this house. We have a Matisse, and we have a Dali on this side, but there's actually a pretty special story revolving around that painting. One evening, John Lennon was actually over at the house in the 70s and drank a little bit too much and decided to put his cigarette butt out on that painting and actually ended up almost getting in a fight with one of my dad's friends. So every time I have guests over or we have people over, we always tell the story of when John Lennon put his cigarette out on the Matisse. Clearly it was before there was a frame, but now when you walk around the house, you'll note that there's a glass protecting all the nice art because of that evening. This bizarre painting is from an artist. He actually did one of Michael Jackson and made entirely of pills. He did one of Rosie O'Donnell, which was entirely made of food, which is not that flattering. So the fact that the artist actually used Jack Daniels, baby oil, and editorial pieces, I suppose is pretty flattering and was clearly flattering enough for my dad to want the piece. This is the movie room at the mansion, which also functions as a living room. On Friday and Saturday, we'll have family friends over and screen a film after dinner. And on Sunday, we'll show a movie that is still in theaters. During parties, this room gets a little bit more lively, and people spend some time in here and have drinks and socialize. And it's a lot more fun than just screening another movie on a Friday night. Here's my dad's popcorn blanket. This keeps him nice and warm during those black and white movies. The plants have stayed relatively the same because my dad likes to keep everything as is. So yeah, this room has stayed the same, and when anything's been changed out, it has been changed out to something that looks exactly like the one before. This is the game room. This is actually my favorite part of the house. It's where I come and we'll host friends and we all hang out and drink and play games. This little piece has a really great story. Before my dad actually started the company, he worked for Esquire. And he walked into his boss's office and asked for a $5 raise, and his boss replied no. And my dad said, "I'm gonna quit if I don't get the raise," and he said, "Then quit." And sure enough, he left the company. And in the months following, he actually put the first magazine together. And when Playboy actually beat Esquire in circulation and reached its peak of 7 million, becoming the most popular magazine in the world, the CEO of Esquire actually sent him this as a "we fucked up." This is the van room. It's designed to actually look like the back of a 1970s van. There's actually a mattress underneath the floor, and you can imagine why there's mirrors on the ceiling. I'll let your mind wander for a minute on that one.
Your mum's old laptop?
Yeah. I did have one, but Mark got angry and...
Ladies and gentlemen, round of applause for this competition's Cinderella story, our only player in this final without a professional sponsor. So, if you win, you're straight online to buy a new rig?
No, if I win, the money will be a present for someone.
Oh, yeah? Who? Your girlfriend?
I'd rather not say.
Oh, come on, Liam, tell us!
Okay, well, not really a present, but more a deposit for a house.
That's cool. Where?
Coventry.
Ooh.
Yeah, you know Adele?
Yeah, I know Adele, but seriously, she's your...
I mean, no, she's not, like, not my favourite, but me and my mum listen to her.
Oh, that's sweet. Oh. Okay, Liam, thanks. Now...
Nothing really prepares you to the moment you strike thick ice on a vessel like the Nordica. It's a 13,000-ton icebreaker built for these conditions, but it's loud, the vessel shakes and groans, and you can hear these large chunks of ice scrape along the hull. We'd been travelling for about 12 days after leaving Vancouver on this 10,000-kilometre journey to Greenland, and the first ice appeared almost out of nowhere. It was what they call first-year ice, thin, mushy, what the ship's ice navigator likened to a sea of porridge. But by the time we reached Franklin Strait in the centre of the passage, it was much thicker, still first-year ice, but with inclusions of multi-year ice, which is bluish, has survived several summer melts, and was as hard as concrete. Despite the power and the strength of the boat, the number one rule with an icebreaker is actually to avoid ice when you can. Breaking ice can be dangerous, it's uncomfortable for the crew, and it burns through much more fuel. And so the Nordica spent much of its time zigzagging through the floes when it could see gaps in the ice. The Arctic is a very confusing place. Objects that appear close can be miles away. There are mirages that give the illusion of giant ice cliffs all around. There is smoke rising from the ice, and compass readings mean nothing at all. They're distorted by the proximity of the North Pole. There are also these giant white radar stations, remnants of the Cold War. They're no longer manned today, but I couldn't help imagine what it must have been like for the operators back in the day, spending these long and dark winter months listening for signs of Soviet activity. The ship's ice navigator was a retired Canadian Coast Guard. He's been sailing these waters for more than 3 decades, and he's really seen the ice change. There is less of it, it's thinner, it leaves earlier in the summer, returns later in autumn. The data shows that since 1979, the Arctic has lost, on average, 34,000 square miles of ice each year. That's like the size of Maine or a country like Serbia. Scientists say it's not coming back in the foreseeable future. Even in the best case scenario envisaged by the 2015 Paris Climate Agreement, sea ice will largely vanish from the Arctic during the summer within the coming decades. And so this sight is something most children will never be able to experience. Now, our journey through the Northwest Passage set the record for the earliest transit ever. Now, of course, that does say something about the changes to the ice, but it could give the wrong impression. Talk of the opening of the Northwest Passage, I think, is still far off for most vessels. It remains a dangerous place with uncharted waters and unpredictable weather. And if something goes wrong, the closest help could be thousands of miles away. We left the polar waters grateful for a safe passage, of course, but also acutely aware of the fragility of this environment and also the unique privilege of being able to see it before it disappears.